Okay, this is Frank Reichert again, and this is part two. I've already submitted a few days ago a video of this. This is Central Oregon. It is a semi-primitive campground. In other words, what I mentioned in that video, you got to supply your own power source if you want one. If you're going to stay, I'm going to stay a 2-week stay. I've been here 6 days. Tomorrow is the first week, full week of my arrival here tomorrow morning. As you can see, the tent looks a lot different, but it is not fixed. Okay, Coleman. This is a Coleman Weathermaster 10 tent, and it says it's advertised to be a waterproof tent. And when I got here 1 week ago, tomorrow, it's taken me 6 days to get it here, to get the tent at this point. What the instructions don't tell you, they don't tell you anything. They give you a lot of diagrams, but they leave a lot of stuff out. The angle of the roof line, as you can see, the center of it is okay. All right. But the other two, it's advertised to have 4, and it doesn't need it because it isn't built for one anyway. But anyway, the instructions said there were 4 distinct side poles and roof poles going across. And they were listed as AA and CC, CC being the 2 middle ones. Well, it turned out there was only 1 C pole. And that took me about 40 minutes of separating the parts and wondering what's going on here, why this doesn't match up. And the big thing and the hardest thing to find was what I found just this morning. I ripped the top off again and laid it out. That's the fly, the rain fly that's on top, or I call it a canopy. Coleman calls it a rain fly in the instructions. Anyway, it was just laying there sloppily because what it advertised, or what it's supposed to look like, and the instructions that came with the tent are 2 different things. The tent in the instructions is the same size tent pretty much, but I noticed that there's a screen porch on one side of it. In other words, the tent itself was about 1/3 smaller as far as living space. All right, that's one thing too I didn't know because they didn't show this tent. It's one solid tent. You can put a divider and get 2 rooms out of it, sure. But there's no porch on it. And what it didn't show was this tent has a window on the left side and the right side as you look forward at the tent. And this is the right side of it. And you can see the window looks good now. But in the process of trying to put it up, and I ripped some bad rips in it, and it did get water in it. So I was calling it the the weather nightmare, I think, in my first video instead of the Weathermaster, because it did leak. And but it was the fault of the design primarily. You know, the old I got some still pictures of this with the canopy taken off this morning to show that these 2 things just don't match. If you see the left side of the far right here in the corner, it's lower than it is on the other one. In other words, there's an S design in the bar instead of a full loop that would cover the whole thing. And so you can see on the right side it's tight up on top, and over here there's slack in it because it's dipping down. It's not a true, you know, like the center one. The center is a true circle or curve, all right, where the connections meet. But I spent another 2 hours on it after taking the fly off, trying to figure out how you connect the 2 fiberglass window things. They were just sticking out with no place to go, and the instructions didn't cover that either. In fact, they didn't even mention it other than they're there, okay, but it didn't tell you where you're going to put them. There was no written stuff. It was all diagrams, and they didn't have a diagram of that, and that's what blew me away. And both sides, same thing. So what happens is, on this pole here, on the front pole, this is the right side pole, looking forward at the tent. There is a way, okay, to put that fiberglass pole, bend it around, and insert it in the pole here. There's a way to do it, but they don't tell you anything about that. I thought initially it would go into the ground somehow, or on the side of the tent, but no. Yeah, that wouldn't make sense either because you're losing the strength of the steel by doing it that way. So you have to figure all of this out. And like I said, I've been here this is my 6th day working with this thing. And I finally got it up, but I can't fix it perfectly because, unfortunately, well, because of the S-curves involved on the left side and the right side, they don't even match up together. And they don't tell you which one goes where in the instructions either. They just show a straight curve, you know. Well, it's not. Okay. So anyway, that's the same. So I've got the window on the right side of the, yeah. And if you walk around, I've got the window on the left after you put the canopy back on. That's what it's supposed to look like. All right. That's what it's supposed to look like. You can see it there. It's not bad. But what's bad is the front of the tent, because that's where the rips occurred, because nothing seemed to match. And I tried to get it to match and put the poles, the ground poles that go into the ground and hold it there. I tried to put 2 of them into the ring, and boy, that was a job. And I shortened them to the very maximum that I could, too, by the way. They just wouldn't fit in the ring. So what happened was a rip occurred right here in this corner on the front left side and also on the middle. There was a lot of stress put on this tent just putting it up the first time. That took 2 hours. I started about 6 o'clock and ended about 8 o'clock, or 8:30 even. And it started to rain on me at that point. I had to put the canopy on, or I was gonna, it was going to be a real disaster. So I took the canopy off today and tried to, so I could see everything in plain sight again, just like I was putting it up for the very first time. And I don't recommend anyone buying this thing, unless, of course, Coleman puts out a brochure to ship with it that really gives you some setup instructions and labels everything. These pipes, there were only 2 pipes that were labeled red, and that's the center one. The poles, I mean, that connect. And I hope that's the right one. It's at least circular in design. The other 2 are not. If you look at the inside, and if you see the still pictures, I'm not going to try to rip that canopy off again. Not again, okay. That was an old age or all morning job for me today. I'm not going to go back and do that, but I did take still pictures, and I'm going to put them on my website, on Facebook too. And I'm going to send all of this to Coleman, because they created a disaster. Their instructions were 1 page, actually, and there was no written anything at all. You had to figure it out by looking at it. And the instructions also call for 4 different sets of poles, both roof and both side. And there's only 3, as you can see. There's 3, you can count them. There's no sleeves for the 4th one. So how they got that in the instructions, I don't know, but that screws you up too. That kind of stuff really screws you up. When you come up here and you're laying everything out and you're trying to find where all this stuff is. And it's a 20-minute, they say you can set it up in 20 minutes. And I agree you could do it in 30 if you knew what you were doing, if you've done it before. But if you try to do this for the first time, you're not going to do it in 20 minutes. It'll take you hours to figure it out. And so, you can, if you want to think, it's not a bad tent. I don't think it is. I don't think it's really that bad a tent, but the instructions are pitiful, and the equipment that comes with it is just outrageous. And I'm talking mainly about the overhead roof ones on the left side and the right side. They're not straight curves. You have an S design on each of those braces, and you can see it on both sides. You can see how it dips on the left side here in the middle. That's because there's an S curve on both sides. Why they put it there, Lord only knows. Okay, I'm not trying to be facetious here, but you can see how stupid it is. Really, if it was a complete curve, it would have been perfect. If all of those roof support links for the roof had a complete curve like the center one did, I think we'd be okay here, right? But that's not the case. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here because I really don't want to. I've already blown a whole week of my 2-week stay here just screwing around with this thing. And now I want some sort of restitution or a replacement from Coleman. I think they owe me that much. This is not an easy tent to set up, especially when you don't have directions that are good and you don't have diagrams that work. And they don't have anything at all describing how you put the 2 windows in on the left side and the right side. There's nothing they mention about that, or show in a diagram for that matter. You have to, yeah, it's learn as you go. And I could do it again. I could do it, and I could probably do it in 30 minutes if I was starting scratch with what I know about this tent now and working with it all week. I know how it goes together. But you know, and I've been doing this for years, decades really, camping, and I camp 2 months out of the year, and it's all tent camping. And I'm not trying to brag about it, but I'm not a novice at this, okay? And the tent that I usually use is an Ozark Trail Walmart 18-footer. This is slightly less than that. I measured it. But it's almost the same size. And I can put that one up in 30 minutes, no problem. And this one should be that. If you knew how it goes together, like I do now, and where all this stuff is supposed to go, and the problems with the the left and the right roof, it's not a complete circle, and so you're going to have problems matching that up when you put the tent up. I'd kind of like to recommend it, you know, because I think it can be a good tent, and I think they need to modify those two things especially, and they need to advertise what to do with those two fiberglass poles for the windows. They don't even tell you about it, that you got to connect them that way. And if there was just some instructions that told you how to do it, it would have shortened all of this down to maybe 3 hours on the first show, on first throw. Instead, it took 2.5 hours, and I got rained on and got water inside the tent, and it was just a mess. Anyway, I'm going to leave this because I think I didn't want to leave it the way I put it in part one. I have been working on it. It's taken me 6 days to get to this point. And it does work, okay? You do have a window there, and you don't have stuff laying around on the sides anymore like I did before. So anyway, that's what it is. And I hope you have a happy summer camping. I'm trying to have. Okay, I'm gonna be doing this in June again, but in Idaho this time, not over in Central Oregon. And then I'm going to come back here again in Central Oregon in September for a couple of weeks again, and bring either this tent back, I hope not, or get a replacement tent and bring it back. And I know I can set it up because I'm going to set this up in Idaho one more time, just familiarize myself so that I live and breathe this tent. I know where every pole goes, every fiberglass pole goes, and it's well put together. I think somebody had a good design, whoever designed this. It has a D-door with a hinge on it that's easy to open and close on the front, and they've got a regular door on the back, and I just kind of seal that up. I'm not going to worry about it. But it's easy to use this. It's got Velcro strips, but at night you probably want to zipper it up. You never know what the weather is going to do overnight up here. But anyway, it's a nice day today, and I wish you all a happy summer. Bye-bye.